throwing fish back into the river, and you're asking whether you're throwing them back for you or for them, and later in life that really reminded you of your work. What did you determine? We're approaching the criminal justice system, and are we talking with people and dealing with people for us or for them?
I think it's mostly for us. You know, that if we really wanted it to be a place where people could be successful, we would be more intentional about making sure the places they went back to weren't toxic anymore, which is kind of the point of what my talk is. That there's a lot of research that just shows that the number of people that return to prison after they get out, or the number of kids who go back into institutions and their lack of success, it's pretty significant, the amount of what that research tells us. And while there's programs designed to try and work with that and to try to help, I don't know that we really are making a difference because we keep doing the same thing, you know.
Are there things you found through your work that you would like to see us do differently?
Yeah, I do. I think that we need to be honest. You know, I think that we need to be honest about why it is that the places I talk about are like that. We need to be honest about how race matters in this country. We need to be attentive to that and put it at the center of our work as opposed to as being on the periphery. Because if you think about how that race has had this enduring effect, there's got to be something about how we see people and treat people based on that impacts their ability to be successful. So to me, racial equity is at the core of any solution.
And what does that end up meaning?
What does racial equity mean?
No, in terms of how we get there and how we check ourselves and make sure that, you know, we are moving forward rather than just saying, you know, somebody will figure it out.
What it means is that when we start to make policies that are designed to will have an impact on a community or on a group of people, that we think about what that impact looks like. If we don't pay attention to that, we can put in place policies like the zero tolerance policies that they put in place in schools, for example, that on their face it makes sense. You don't want violence in schools, you don't want aggression in schools, but they would disproportionately impacting poor African American kids and the way they were being handed out. And what's wound up happening is that school to prison pipeline that people talk about, that my work is about, just gets filled often by kids who don't, you know, they're being kids. You know, it's kid behavior. So it's paying attention to what are the implications of what we do.
So it's about how we vote, it's about how involved we are in our schools, it's about how we're treating our people. You tell a story, Ogden, about being in the schools and about a bunch of 3 p.m. phone calls the kids make. It sounds like that's a large part of where we need to be working.
Yes. It's amazing the level of homelessness in the schools. You know, that the school district, City of St. Louis School District, is at about 40% of the kids are homeless. They're functionally homeless. That means that on any given day, they don't have a permanent address. There are schools in the district that are at 70% of kids being homeless. That means that at the end of every day, they have to figure out where they're going to sleep. They don't have the stability that comes with having a permanent home, a permanent address. They don't have the stability that comes in terms of kind of food being there because you're sharing space with people. And it has a major impact on the schools. And then we say to the schools, teach the kids, you know, and you're failing because you're not doing it. When in fact, if I go to school hungry, I'm thinking about I'm hungry, not about what's 2 + 2 or whatever the lesson is today. And we need to pay attention to that. I think there's hope. You know, the schools that I'm working in, so I'm working in 7 elementary schools, and we've done professional development around racial equity, around trauma and stress. And what it did was that it opened the eyes of the people in the buildings, not to the fact that the kids were black or not to the fact that the kids had trauma in their lives, but even more importantly to the fact that that trauma comes into school every day. And that trauma comes into the school and affects the people that work in the school. That matters, you know. So I think that what's happened is that now the teachers, at least in the principals in the schools that I'm in, when they're thinking about responding to kids, they're thinking about, well, what does it mean? What am I about to do, and what's the implications of what I'm about to do? Where when everything feels like you're in a firestorm, you just are pushing people out because that's what you do. And this is just different, you know. It can be different, and I'm very hopeful that it can be different. Some days it's harder to feel optimistic, but most days I feel optimistic because there's a lot of people that are aware at this point.
Mm-hmm.